In what was supposed to be Tim Tszyu's return to grace, him coming in, picking up another world title against a pretty unknown champion, if we're being honest, it could not have gone worse. Tszyu talked about in the lead up to this fight, the belts don't mean necessarily much. All it is a chip to set up the big money fights, the tough fights that I want to take part in. And what does this leave you saying? 2 losses in a row now, and this one was very, very clear cut. The Sebastian Fundora loss, there was a lot of controversy coming out of that result, but this one, he goes down 4 times. The Tszyu coming in, it was as one-sided a beatdown as you can possibly get inside the boxing ring. Like I said, Murtazaliev was pretty unknown. He had a very good record coming in, 22-0, and just became the champion in his last outing. Now, he didn't look necessarily the best in that fight. He has great boxing fundamentals, a good team, a really nice counter right hand, but in his American debut tonight, he showed the world what he's about. Tim Tszyu, very come forward, front foot heavy, attack, offense-based style. He's happy to take a punch to give one. And Murtazaliev, that played right into his game tonight. His ability to fire in the middle of Tim Tszyu's combinations and hurt him was a thing of beauty. And once Tim Tszyu was hurt in that second round and went down like he did, there was no coming back. The warrior inside Tim Tszyu kept fighting on. He was fighting on instinct after that first knockdown. That was a real bad one. Made it to the end of the round somehow, going down 3 times in the second round. And he was just too hurt to continue. Yes, he came out in the third round. Murtazaliev hits him with one of the cleanest left hooks as Tszyu goes to the body with his own left hook. And it was curtains after that. The Tszyu came in. Tszyu gets up. He beat every single count. Like I said, the guy's an absolute warrior. He only knows one way. The commentators spoke on that. Him, even when he's hurt, he doesn't have the ability to just sit on the back foot and box like he probably needed to tonight, He's coming forward and continuing to look and hurt you and getting into these wild firefights. So Tim Tszyu, a really, really tough loss to swallow tonight. A fight where he was more than a 4-1 favorite coming in. Everyone expected him to just breeze through this guy, pick up the title. I wonder if Tim Tszyu was overlooking this guy, because I know I was, and a lot of the pundits, the commentators were talking about, the next potential matchups and how good Tim Tszyu is in this division. This result puts a real halt in that story and in Tim Tszyu's momentum. He's going to have to go down a bit in competition now and take some easier fights to rebuild, because he took enough damage tonight where the team needs to be really careful and strategic about how they come back and how they rest from this, because he took so much punishment in there tonight. So Murtazaliev shows the world who he is. What a great opportunity to present himself on this stage. Like we talked about, Tim Tszyu is one of the most hyped prospects coming up in boxing, even outside of Australia. He had a lot of steam behind him coming into this matchup, and Murtazaliev stole all of that from him. It seemed like Tim Tszyu's style just played right into the hands of Murtazaliev. He was landing crisper, cleaner shots, whereas Tim Tszyu looked pretty wild out there. Wasn't really fighting behind the jab like he's used to. He looked like he wanted to just go and get into a brawl straight away. Although, that gets you a long way. At the top level in these world championship boxing matches, you need to be technical in there. Otherwise, that's going to happen. You're going to get completely exposed and hurt pretty quickly. You saw the Russian has crisp technique, and he is massive for the division. Absolute bricks in his hands as well. With his size, technique, those two things mixed together, he is crisp when he puts his combinations together. And he hurt Tim Tszyu real bad when he landed clean every single time. So where does Tim Tszyu go after this? I think he might even have to go back down to Australia, back to the regional scene, rebuild, have a few more fights, like I said, against some lower level competition to rebuild a bit of that confidence, because although, like we said, the Fundora loss, his confidence was sky high coming out of that. This is gonna, put a real dent in that confidence, I think. Although Tim Tszyu's been down before, he's always come back and won those fights in quite devastating fashion. And tonight, he was really hurt and put away and dispatched within 3 rounds. What a crazy upset. It just goes to show you, odds aside, it's 2 people in there throwing their hands at each other and anything can happen. I think Murtazaliev is going to have a lot more respect put on his name now. He was very unknown coming into this matchup. People know now, trust me, people know now, because that power technique and the confidence in himself to go onto this stage for the first time and have so much belief in his ability. He talked about KOing Tim Tszyu and he did everything that he said he would. So hats off to Murtazaliev. Great performance. You won a fan out of me tonight for sure, my friend. You guys need to go and watch the Matteo Tapia and Endri Saverda fight. Hopefully I pronounced that one correctly, because these 2 warriors put on an absolute show for 10 rounds. I believe Tapia went down 3, even 4 times in the matchup. He had a knockdown himself and he was just back and forth for the whole 10 rounds. It was called a draw in the end, which I thought was highway robbery. Tapia was the clear up-and-coming undefeated prospect against Saverda, the underdog, but very gritty and crafty, who's been on a real good streak recently. The fight, 2 judges saw it as a draw, 1 giving it to Tapia. I struggled to give him 4 rounds, I thought he had a really good couple of rounds, but he was hurt so bad on multiple occasions and went down in multiple rounds. And for no judge to have a scorecard the other way is absolutely criminal. So scorecards aside, go back and watch that fight, because it was an absolute barn burner and it was a great way to start this card off. Poor Tim Tszyu, terrible result for the Aussie, for his hype, for his train, but it sets up a really interesting rebuild story, because his will, his spirit is second to none. And I think there's no quit in that guy. So really interested to see how he rebuilds. Like I said, on the other side, Murtazaliev, he's won a fair down to me. And I'm really interested to see his next matchup, because there's only sharks in that division. And after seeing him tonight, I think he's going to put up a really interesting and exciting fight with all of those guys in that division. Him versus Ortiz, give me that all day long. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you could like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it, and we'll chat soon.